seeing for me is believing, having faith in the fact that there are still things that are unseen. And that's hard for a lot of people to understand. I have kids who would say, if this guy Jesus could just appear in the backyard, if the flying saucer could just land in the backyard, I'd believe that. I can't see him. I can't touch him. And so we've had interesting discussions, especially with my two sons, who are very scientifically minded. One is a PhD in neuroscience, who's come to say in writing that I've come to see that everything is created. It's a huge thing, because we would have these fascinating discussions about belief, and I would talk about heaven, in a Christian context, and they would both discuss this idea of a fifth dimension, that there's some idea that there's a fifth dimension around us right now, and someday we're going to be able to penetrate the veil and get in there. I said, well, what's in there? Well, there could be other people or souls, I guess, if you want to look at it. I said, so you call it the fifth dimension, and I call it heaven. We're not too far off, So we've had that great discussion until 3 or 4 a.m. But this is an interesting one. So my dad passes at 3:30 in the morning. I was with him. He had kind of a stroke. He actually went through brain surgery at age 85, and the only reason he did was because he wanted to spend more time with my mom. He knew what the prognosis was. It was like bad or badder. It was terminal. But he said, I'm going to do it. He goes through it, and then one of the side effects could have been something ruptures, and something happened like that. So he was not conscious that we're aware of. We were talking to him, but his was a very sudden thing. We got him to hospice, and he passed within about a day and a half of this tragic ending. So I get home after being with him and my brother and sister, and I said to my wife, we should go visit Mom tonight. I just felt obligated. From an Alzheimer's standpoint, you don't really need to share that information with somebody who doesn't know it. And I even called the Alzheimer's Association helpline because I was a bit confused. I said, should I really be trying to tell my mom? There isn't such a thing as closure, because tonight, after I tell her, she's not going to remember it, and then tomorrow she'll say, where's Daddy? And I have to tell her that he's died again. And they said, no, don't do that. You're just kind of telling her this over and over again. It's just not fair. It's almost on the edge of abuse, if you will. Okay. But I just wanted to go be with her. And so we got to the memory care unit about 8 o'clock at night. They said, oh, your mom's already gone to bed. She had a rough day. How's your dad doing? I said, well, sadly, he died this morning. And both of the caretakers instantly looked at each other and said, wow, that's amazing, because your mom was crying today multiple times saying, why did Daddy have to leave me? Nobody told her, Ken. I mean, I don't know what the provision of God is that a spirit could leave this realm and on the way out could touch somebody, but they just missed their 63rd wedding anniversary by a couple days when he died. So that happened. But then she went into something right after that called terminal agitation, where she was literally at the end stages of life, which we did not know. And I think it accelerated. If you ask me, I would say it's broken heart syndrome. She knew he left. She knew that he had died. And yet in her 6th to 7th stage of Alzheimer's, she couldn't really put it all together. But she just knew he was not there. And she stopped asking questions. She was not totally unhappy. She was not physically having maladies, but she was agitated. She was walking everywhere, trying to turn doorknobs and stuff. So finally, she winds up in hospice for the last 2 weeks of her life. Angela Hospice in Livonia, Michigan, which is an extraordinary place. And that's where my dad was as well. And in this last couple weeks of her life, some funny things happened. She would, like many Alzheimer's patients, those afflicted with it, they kind of come in and out of lucidity. So we actually had some very poignant moments together, very loving and caring moments, and also some funny moments that happened that were interesting. But she started to see people. She was from a family of 8, born and raised Catholic in the city of Chicago. All of her siblings had passed. She was the last one. She knew who I was. But there were days I would walk in and she would say, oh, there's Richard, there's John, there's Raymond. She was talking about her brothers. And I thought, well, that's interesting. She's not oxygen deprived. She's not on meds that are going to alter her mind. You could say, well, it's because she has Alzheimer's. And yet, I started to get the sense that she was seeing into a place that I couldn't see, because she was lucidly using these names like you would anybody else. Like, I've got 5 kids, and there are times where, somebody walks in and I'll say, "Hi, Kelsey," I mean Tiffany, I mean Riley. It just happens because I'm going through all the girls' names, right? And so this would happen with my mom, and then I'd sit there and I would talk to her, and I'd probe her. I'd say, "So what are you seeing, Mom?" She'd say, "Well, I'm going up to church." And she was conflating the word church with heaven. And I said, "Well, what does church look like?" "Oh, it's beautiful. It's got flowers, and, Uncle John is there, and Raymond and Dickie," and start mentioning her sister's names. It's like, whoa. And so for me, as sad, as you said that, as sad and profound and as it is, and I've been in the presence of a few other people who are experiencing, end of life, not like being as close as I was right to the end with my mom or dad. Susan has experienced this, my wife, with her mom and dad. You are privileged to think, whatever the mystery is, you are in the presence of someone that is half in this realm and half in another realm. And they are seeing things through a veil, that 5th dimension that I was talking about. I've had discussions with my sons. They are seeing things that we can't see. And so then, like you, I think, okay, well, how do I support this in Scripture? Well, there are many visions that are related in Scripture, but the one that comes to mind is when Stephen is being stoned to death. And it doesn't quite explain the details of, well, is he he's probably right on the edge of death, so I don't want to get, out of extra biblical on this, like it's just my interpretation. But he's about to die. People are throwing stones at him. And he says, "I see Jesus sitting at the right hand of the Father." He's seeing into a realm I can't see into. And somehow this idea that you're close to dying gets you closer to that realm. And then they would come back. This happened to Susan. She's from a family of 5 daughters. And her mom at the end of her life was sitting in her favorite chair dying, literally, and kind of woke up, took a breath and looked around and said, "Look at all the angels." And the 5 girls who were all present literally thought she's speaking about her girls. It's about us. And her mom was looking up saying, "Look at all the angels." And then start talking to her daughters like they were her daughters. She was seeing into a place that we can't see. And so as sad as it was that over this 2 weeks I knew my mom's life was going to end, I thought, wow, I am standing on holy ground because I'm in the presence of someone who's seeing into a place I can't see into yet.